口から聞かせてください。スタップ細胞はあるんでしょうか、ないんでしょうか。
スタップ細胞はあります。
スタップ細胞はあるんでしょうか、ないんでしょうか。
Here's the translation following the format rules. This scientist, Haruko Obokata, known as the Fabricator Woman, claimed to have found a miraculous universal cell capable of regenerating all human organs. Her discovery was even published in the science magazine Nature, but it turned out to be a big lie. The STAP cells became nothing more than an illusion. And due to her lies, it led to a situation where a man ended up taking his life. This is such a story. If you could regenerate all human organs, how much would you pay for it? I would pay 1,000,000 yen if it could cure my bad pancreas. In 2014, there was a scientist who nurtured those dreams for us.
染色したり、何でもやります。細胞の染色とか。ここは私の実験台なので。
Her name was Haruko Obokata. Her childhood dream was to become a lawyer, and she was at the top of her class in high school, with the nickname Queen Haruko. By this time, she already aspired to be a scientist. After graduating from high school, she attended Waseda University, a prestigious university in Japan, and obtained her bachelor's and master's degrees in applied chemistry. During this time, she gained a reputation for working day and night, weekdays and weekends. After graduating from Waseda University's Faculty of Science and Engineering's Department of Applied Chemistry in March 2006, Obokata advanced to Waseda Graduate School, where she began researching regenerative medicine. Subsequently, she studied abroad at Harvard University's Charles Vacanti Laboratory, where she began researching the hypothesis that cells could be initialized and given pluripotency by applying stress. Upon her return from Harvard in April 2011, Obokata continued her research under Teruhiko Wakayama, who was the first in the world to create a cloned mouse. It was during this research that she discovered that using weak acid was effective in treating cells. Professor Wakayama stated, "At first, I thought it was impossible, but I liked trying the impossible too, so I helped." In November, using the STAP cells Obokata created, she successfully made a chimera mouse under Professor Wakayama's guidance. In April 2012, Obokata and Wakayama prepared their research results and submitted them to the scientific journal Nature, but it was not accepted. They then involved Yoshiki Sasai, a leading ES cell researcher, in writing the paper. A paper with Obokata as the lead author was submitted again to Nature, and finally, in December 2013, the paper was accepted. With this, the laboratory took the opportunity to expose Obokata to the media, showcasing, during interviews, her hobbies, like Moomin merchandise and a kapogi, a Japanese apron, given by her grandmother, she wore while working. Despite all the attention garnered by Obokata and her STAP cells, what exactly was so impressive about it? STAP cells are, simply put, a type of pluripotent cell capable of transforming into any tissue. This potential to transform into organs and muscles raised expectations for its application in medicine. The scientific journal Nature described the experiment as follows. By extracting lymphocyte cell groups from the spleens of 1-week-old mice and stressing them in a weakly acidic solution, they could turn them into octoditho positive cells, a necessary condition for pluripotent cells. These cells, when cultured for a week in a protein-rich medium, generated STAP cells. When these STAP cells were implanted into mice, benign tumors called teratomas formed. To simplify, it means that when cells were placed where there was previously nothing, a certain tissue formed. Additionally, by making STAP cells glow green, their movement could be tracked. When these were implanted into mouse embryos, in other words, where a baby grows, a chimera mouse, with its whole body glowing green, was born. If the STAP cells weren't truly multipotent, pluripotent stem cells, only specific spots or tissues would glow green. This chimera mouse's result proved that STAP cells fully functioned as multipotent stem cells. Essentially, it's like disassembling a wooden ship and using the disassembled materials to create various things. This research result defined the well-differentiated cells with full pluripotency, obtained by reinitializing somatic cells as STAP cells, the ones with proliferative functions as STAP stem cells, and those that could be assigned to the placenta as F1 stem cells. The fascinating aspect of STAP cells was their ability to revert differentiated T cells into pluripotent stem cells through a simple operation, offering several advantages over previously highlighted ES cells and IPS cells in regenerative medicine with fewer ethical issues and lower cancer risks. However, this discovery led to suspicion as researchers worldwide failed to replicate the results, resulting in the conclusion of fabrication. Indeed, Obokata was the only person globally who successfully generated STAP cells. It simply highlighted the abundance of errors in Obokata's paper. Even so, people wondered, why did Nature approve such a sloppy research paper? The answer is thought to lie heavily with Yoshiki Sasai, who co-authored the paper. As noted earlier, he was a leading figure in ES cell research. The authority he carried possibly led to a lenient review process. The content of the paper faced various allegations like graph reuse, image reuse, plagiarizing summaries, stealing experiment results from the internet, false experimental descriptions, data falsification, and fabrication. These are fundamental no-nos when conducting research or writing papers, yet Obokata ignored them all. Her brazen defiance at breaking the rules is, in a sense, almost refreshing. Nevertheless, the only reason it passed Nature's review was because it was co-researched with Sasai, making it all the more concerning for the reputation of Nature magazine. Obokata was then called to hold a press conference.
スタップ細胞はあるんでしょうか、ないんでしょうか。
スタップ細胞はあります。まず私自身、スタップ細胞は200回以上作成に成功しています。
The reported press conference drew the attention of online communities, rapidly turning it into a toy for public ridicule.
スタップ細胞はあります。スタップ細胞はあります。スタップ細胞はあります。
スタップ細胞はあるんでしょうか、ないんでしょうか。
Subsequently, the paper in Nature was retracted. This prompted another key figure, Sasai, to hold a press conference.
論文に存在した複数の問題を見抜けなかったことは残機の念に耐えません。
Sasai expressed regret and deep shame for not being able to detect the misconduct, stating he had joined during the research's midway and couldn't authenticate the paper, though he had a guiding role over lead author Haruko Obokata during its writing. 4 months after his press conference, Sasai was found hanging in his research center, dead. In the press conference, Sasai affirmed the existence of STAP by stating there were many occurrences that couldn't be explained without STAP cells. But with Obokata's misconducts unfolding, post-conference, despair, and growing responsibility weighed on him greatly. One of Sasai's suicide notes was addressed to Obokata, imploring her, replicate STAP cells. Once that's done, start living a new life. Obokata's lie not only devastated her life, but became a scandal entangling others' lives as well. She eventually documented the events in a memoir. Regarding the simultaneous public criticism and Sasai Yoshiki's suicide, she wrote, Sasai-sensei passed away. It was the morning of August 5th. Venus disappeared. I became an inorganic body, perpetually consumed by the fires of hell. Obokata addressed the various deficiencies in her paper, like image mix-ups and missing data, stating they were due to her immaturity and deeply regrettable, asserting it wasn't deliberate. The experiments were primarily under Wakayama-sensei's control, and it was Sasai Yoshiki who had named the STAP phenomenon and cells. Thus, her responsibility in the research was limited. In her memoir, she criticized the media, arguing how unreasonable it was for her to face such extreme public condemnation, with the media displaying malice in its reporting. Nevertheless, she was guilty of misconduct, and excuses like, I was immature, or it never occurred to me it would be considered falsification, could never justify her actions. As Socrates' proverb states, ignorance is a sin. Following this series of events, Obokata was stripped of her doctoral degree, and her path as a researcher was shut. What came next for her? After maintaining a period of silence for 2 years, she returned to public attention with a series titled Haruko Obokata Diaries in the magazine Fujin Koron, appearing rather refreshed. Compared to the past, her appearance was polished, leading to comments like, "Did the STAP cells make her younger?" In 2020, a time when no one mentioned STAP cells anymore, reports emerged that she became a pâtissier at a certain cake shop. She was also seen enjoying mahjong in a parlor. In 2024, she reportedly got married to a male alum of the same university, who interestingly is a researcher and scientist. Could it be that Obokata still harbors a lingering attachment to being a researcher? The STAP cells that caught the attention of Japan and the world over, did they truly exist? Though her life collapsed through fabrication and falsehood, there remain whispers of her being framed. If so, who would have done it, and for what purpose? If STAP cells indeed existed and could aid the sick, one can only hope for their eventual discovery by someone, someday.